There we go. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you, Lori. How are you?
Good morning, Lauren. I am wearing our holiday colors because this is our last show for the year, only the year. We're going to be coming back all fresh and new next year, but this is it. So I just want to take an opportunity before we even get started, Lauren, to thank all of our audience that's been here. What did you say? We're on episode 52, 53. I know you're 53, and our frequent flyers that have been with us. So just a warm, heartfelt thank you to everybody who's been with the show with us for our whole process. And to those that are just joining, a welcome and many new exciting things to come next year, which I'll be talking about in a bit.
Super exciting. As Lori said, welcome and thank you. Thank you. I can't believe it's 53. That's insane. But here we are. And we're still going.
I know, it's amazing. I thought when I thought the idea, I didn't know how long it was going to last, if it was going to be a hit. I definitely didn't believe it was going to be to the degree it is, but I'm very glad it is. It's a lot of fun, and a lot of fun for, I know, those people that are watching. So I will let you take it away. And then when you get done, I'm going to ask you to stay on a little bit because I'm going to ask you to share an additional link for us before we get started.
Sounds good. All right, give me a couple of seconds. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Lori, can you confirm you can see?
Can see it. It's in the slide. It's not in the slide form, but I can see it. Now it's good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Simpson. I am with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. We are a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, and we offer no-cost services to local small businesses. Our services are at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. For the Los Angeles network, we serve the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And the map in front of you shows you our current center locations. So if you're in any of those areas, or again, if you are located within the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, or Ventura counties, please be sure to get in contact with us. You will want to do so because we offer no cost business advising. Again, no cost. You are able to sit one-on-one via Zoom with one of our business experts. And we're talking about people with expertise, and I mean years of expertise in the fields of marketing, finance, taxes, business planning. You name it, we've got it. You might even be lucky enough to sit with Lori Williams, who is our guru of all numbers. Again, and or one of her colleagues. We also offer virtual trainings, which are comprehensive workshops to help your business adapt and grow. Again, much like the session you have joined today. So please be sure to get in contact with us today. You can reach us by phone, 866-588-7232, or you can go online, smallbizla.org/new client. If you have reached us and you are outside of the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, or Ventura counties, please go to americassbdc.org/find-your-SBDC. I'm going to stop my screen share.
Okay, Lauren, with that, can you bring up, while I'm speaking about it, a special link as well as put it into the chat? Now, for those of you who have been following, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I made an announcement. I love to be able to say, heard it first here on Small Biz Talk, but there are going to be some grants that are going to be offered. They're called Economic Opportunity Grants. They're going to start where we're going to have additional information in January and from there on. And as soon as we know additional information, which should be pretty soon into the new year, we're going to be announcing it here on the show. Now, this link that you are seeing on Lauren's screen, and she'll be putting in a chat, it is a link just to sign up for more information. Please note, just to sign up for more information. This isn't the application. We don't have any of the processes in place that we're knowledgeable enough about yet, but they'll be coming soon. But by signing up on this link, you're going to be getting information information as it becomes available. And the opportunity grants are going to be in many different industries, a lot of different focuses. That's all I can tell you at this point, but it'll be some exciting opportunities and we'll be discussing it further. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lauren. Now, as I'm talking about these grants and grants in specific, I just wanted to also bring up another point that I know a lot of times people are not aware of or not thinking about. And that is that many of these grants could be taxed both on a state and federal government level. So I just want people to have it in the back of their mind when they're looking at these grants, not as a deterrent to getting them, but more of an awareness when they're filing their taxes with a tax preparer will be able to assist on that. But I've had a lot of questions being asked lately. Are these taxable? Are these not? And some people don't even consider that it may be. So I just wanted to bring that information up. While I'm talking about taxes, just as a quick statement, I want to make sure that everybody that is an S Corp or is taxed as an S Corp remembers that if you have a profit and have to create a reasonable salary as the employee owner, that W-2 has to be created by year end. Also, another little just quick statement about tax returns that I see a lot of confusion. An LLC must file a tax return if there's any transactions, and those that are S Corps or taxed as an S Corp always must file a tax return. So I've seen some people get into trouble not filing tax returns when they're an S Corp or taxed as an S Corp. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about some tax things come January, because that's when people start really looking at getting their tax returns ready. So I'll be going over a bit more in detail. Now, as for upcoming webinars, I just want to let you know I got 2 going on. I had an issue this week with technology, time change. It messed up on my computer. So I didn't have my charging your sick customer sales tax webinar like I should have. So I've rescheduled that. Let everybody know if you were somebody that went to sign in and the little ball kept spinning, I so apologize for that issue. But I'll be holding it Thursday, December 20th. Lauren's going to put these links into the chat. I also have coming up in January, what is the best legal structure for my company? What are the tax advantages? Very popular webinar that I held, I think in November. And so I'm going to rerun that in January. I'm also going to start my financial literacy webinars again in January. I'll be giving you links. I haven't set those up yet. Now, upcoming shows, pretty exciting. We're going to start off January 4th with Jason Shoup of Play Lab. Now, Play Lab is a children's specialty play center designed to meet the development needs of children ages 6 months to 2 years. I think it was about 2017 when Jason and his wife started Play Lab. So he's going to be talking about all types of things, from starting the company, navigating through COVID, all the different things that are happening. So all that he is going to go over. Oh, and I see it's the 22nd, not the 20th. Thank you so much. Thursday is 22nd. Apologize about that. Thank you for catching that. January 11th, Bridget Robertson is going to come on and talk about the BESA Center, BESA. Once again, this is a school for preschool and school-age children. She's going to talk about all types of challenges and changes she's made within her company. Once again, 2 great entrepreneurs coming on, talking about different options that they're creating for children and also the challenges that they've had in these type of companies. Now, I have yet to announce who's coming on the 18th. I'll announce at the beginning of January, but I do want to go ahead and mention that January 25th, Simara is going to come back on. She was once again one of our very popular guests that talked about HR issues. There's some new things that are coming in January. We had someone in our audience request to have a conversation about this, and I wanted to have Simara come back on and talk about the just different rules and regulations that small companies need to follow. So that will be coming on as well. So lots of really cool and exciting things happening. Now for today, I want to start out by telling a story, and it's kind of a story from my humble beginnings as an entrepreneur. As I've told many of you, I started my first company, I think I was 22 or 23, I really had definitely more guts than brains. That's for sure. I definitely believe that. I didn't really think about so much that I was becoming an entrepreneur. I don't even know back then if that was really a word that we used. I don't recall hearing it or discussing it. I just knew that I was not working for someone else. That's about all that I knew about it. And at the time, I can remember people saying I was so foolish, just foolish, because I wasn't working for big corporations. I wasn't getting the benefits and the insurance and all that. And back then, especially being in my mid-20s, starting your own company was just considered a foolish, almost risk, hazard type thing to do. And my entire life outside of working for places here and there for small periods of time, I've always worked for myself. And I remember it wasn't many years after I had started my company when there was a recession and a lot of huge layoffs from the bigger corporations. And as I watched my fellow associates and friends get laid off from companies, I saw how traumatic it was for them because they had equated their entire existence with the company. Keep in mind, this is like 20, 30 years ago. So it was quite a different, environment than it is today. And I remember trying to tell my friends, it's not about the company you worked for, it's about the skills you possess and bringing those skills to the marketplace. And over the time period of, being an entrepreneur, so to speak, I have seen so many changes, not only with how acceptable it is. I always would joke that said it came from the first days when I had my company. I had to have a receptionist, even though I didn't need one. I had to have an office, even though I didn't need one, because that was the perception I had to give, right? And then we look at today.
Hello, everyone. Just give us a couple of seconds. Lori will be coming right back. Just give us a couple of seconds. Thank you. And be sure to check the chat. I've already listed the links for her upcoming 2 sessions. The one on should I be charging your customer sales tax? And then the other is what is the best legal structure for my company? What are the tax advantages? So those links are in the chat. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Lauren, am I back?
You are back. I don't see your face.
Okay, it's so funny because I just said to Lauren just a little bit ago, I said, I am so tired of having technology and being worried about technology. So, hey, you don't see me yet. You might in a minute. It's suddenly my camera just said it does not want to accept it being in existence. But you can hear me, right?
I can, yes.
I am not going to worry about my face for a minute. It may come back. And if not, I'm going to keep talking. So I have seen technology change so much over the years where it's actually a little bit of frustration, I would say. But outside of that, I want to just jump into announcing my guest. So today, Elianne Rodriguez, she is a serial entrepreneur with 17 years of experience in small businesses, education, and tech. She believes entrepreneurship and technology are great disruptors to build accessible and equitable ecosystems. Now, Elianne is currently LEEAF director at Cal State LA, a small business advisor for the LA SBDC network, and managing partner at List Ventures. Her experience leading community projects has served 5,000 plus clients, launched 100 plus businesses, supported 12,000 plus jobs, and accessed over 40 million in capital. Elianne serves on several advisory boards of grassroots organizations, small business collaboratives, educational institutions, and tech advocacy groups. With that, I would welcome Elianne to our show.
Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Hi, Lori.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect. I think that my computer is definitely acting to my camera today. So if I turn off, Elianne, I'm going to let you just talk until I get back on, okay?
Sounds good.
So Elianne, first of all, let's start out by talking about, we were talking off screen before you came on, and we were talking about skill sets and what you define an entrepreneur as being. And I just want you to just start out with talking about that aspect you were speaking to me about.
Thanks, Lori. Yeah, so, I was sharing with you earlier, and I share this with people all the time about, entrepreneurship seems so daunting, right? And everybody's like, what are you going to do? How are you going to be an entrepreneur? I think we think when I ask, and I do this all the time, when I talk to students, to business owners, I ask, like, what is an entrepreneur? What do they look like? Where do they live? How do they work? And we have these concepts of, like, who is an entrepreneur and what do they look like, right? We think of, a lot of people always say, like, Elon Musk, right? Or Jeff Bezos or whatever, right? We have these ideas of who that might be, but I think more of entrepreneurship as a skill set. I think an entrepreneur is really anybody that is resourceful, anybody that is willing to try something maybe that they've never done before. Being an entrepreneur is really more about, having courage to try something, going out there and meeting people, developing something new. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, in any particular vertical. It could be something that you're passionate about. It could be something that you learned about when you were little. I think when we meet entrepreneurs and business owners, when you hear their origin stories and how they got started, the common theme is that resourcefulness, that asking questions, the trying new things. It's those skill sets that we really kind of see coming from the entrepreneurs. And to me, that is what entrepreneurship is about. It's a skill set. It's something that you can take, you can apply it to a business, sure, to make money. You can apply it to a nonprofit, to, for a cause, right? To create impact somewhere. You can do it. You can do it at home. You can do it in a company. Like if you work for someone, you can also be an entrepreneur, right? It's just a skill set that you have to think of an idea, do something about it, ask questions, go out there and find the resources to get it done. Oh, and I think we officially lost Laura. Okay, well, she'll be back.
Sorry, Lee.
That's okay, she'll be back.
Technology.
Right, yeah, but I think it was really great when we're talking to Lori about entrepreneurship being a skill set, right? In my current role, and I'll share this with everyone, I think Lori gave you guys a little bit of background about what I do. I run an accelerator, and a small business accelerator, and a fellowship. And we teach, our fellows, our students, right? This is our workforce for tomorrow. These are, graduating seniors, sometimes juniors at Casa de Ley. We teach them entrepreneurship as a skill set, how to do research, how to go and ask questions, how to find, a target market for anything they want to do. It doesn't have to be business related. It could also be for a project. Maybe they need to pitch, an idea or a concept to their professor. I remember when I was in college, that was my biggest skill set, was being an entrepreneur and going to my professors and saying, the project you assigned me sounds a lot like something I've already done. Could I get credit for this, right? Mm-hmm. And here are some of the things that you can do. You get creative. It's about pitching your ideas and getting other people to buy into it. Making sure that they are inspired by you, making sure that they are following you. Again, it's a skill set, right? And I think we see that a lot in the businesses, and the really, advanced entrepreneurs, I would say the ones that have a lot of experience are the ones that have learned how to pitch a concept, how to, talk about their idea, how to get other people to follow them, to buy something that they're selling. They're all skill sets that we learn. And again, that's I think the biggest thing that we're trying to really change that narrative of entrepreneurship is really a skill set, not necessarily something that like happens out of nowhere and it's only a few people can have it. I think everyone can be an entrepreneur in different ways.
I love what you're saying, and I love the skill set. And thank you for carrying me during that technology issue. So I appreciate that as well. I want to drill down a little bit, and if you could define, Elaine, how you explain skill set, because I'll tell you where I'm asking the question around. I think skill set is such an important concept when we are speaking about entrepreneurship, because in many ways, you don't have the departments that everybody else in a company has. You are it. And I tell people a lot of time they have to realize, even if they're not comfortable being a salesperson, you're now a salesperson. You don't understand finance, you need to know enough just to make sure you're hiring the right experts. So I think when we speak of skill set, and if I can kind of answer this so you're following where I'm going, Elaine, it's a thin line between making sure you have enough of a skill set to engulf all these different aspects, but then saying, well, you know what, I'm just going to jump in. So skill sets are a very loaded word, if you will. Let's talk about anything that strikes you from what I just said.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing, right? One of the things that, and I always share this with people. One of the things my mom used to always say was, you were born knowing nothing, and here you are doing a bunch of things that you learned, right? I may not be an expert at everything, and I think as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we are experts at nothing. We know a little bit about everything, and like you said, enough. I think the skill set is really identifying what you do know, identifying what you don't know, right? And then saying, okay, the things that I don't know, how much of it do I actually want to learn and invest time into becoming an expert into it, into getting that skill set. So for example, finances. One of the top things that business owners struggle with is finances, because we're not accountants, we're not, financial advisors, but you can get into just enough to understand, okay, what are the top 3 numbers I need to look at when I'm running a business? And then when I look at them, what are they saying to me, and what does that mean for me as I run this business, as I go and change operations on a daily basis, right, or on a weekly basis based on those numbers. I think when we think about skill sets, I think about just really your ability to ask for help, right? That's a skill set. Like asking for help and going to other people and saying, listen, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to learn, or I want to try to learn, right? Or at least enough so that I can get by. And we can talk about it in different contexts, but I think building skill sets is more about building like character and or like personal beliefs to then go out and find those things that you need to do for yourself, for your business, for your career, for, going to school, just about anything really.
Yep. You know what I thought of as you were speaking, and this is more of, I guess, a behavior trait. I tend to be more this way, but a lot of people are not. I'm going to say an interesting word, Elaine. You ready? Proactive. I think if there's one thing you have to be with an entrepreneur is, say finance is scary to you. You can't retract and say, oh, I don't understand, I'm just not going to face it. You got to be proactive. And I'm going to even use a bit of aggressive with yourself to force yourself to get out there, get the people, ask for help, like you said, all of that. So I think a bit of a behavior that you have to embrace, and you don't have to be that way necessarily, you just have to embrace it and become in certain aspects, is having a proactive stance. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's scary, and I think that's normal. I think we have, again, we glamorize what the journey could look like, right? What entrepreneurship could look like, but we don't hear enough about, how scary it is, how uncertain it is, how, sometimes you just don't know what you're doing, and that's okay, right? Like, that's okay. I mean, there is no right or wrong way to do things. And I think, being proactive, more about being proactive with yourself, right? And saying, okay, this scares me. And being able to acknowledge that, that's the proactiveness that you have to take, and being able to acknowledge like what's happening internally as, as a human being. And again, I talk about this all the time. I like to build business owners, right? I like to empower business owners, not businesses. We can reinvent ourselves. You could have a business, like in 2019, you had a business. In 2020, the pandemic hit. Your business might have changed completely, and that's okay. We need to build resilient business owners, not businesses. Those can change, those can pivot, those can, morph into something different. And that comes from being proactive about yourself and saying, okay, I'm about to do something that is different. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be something I've never done before. And that might feel scary. And that's okay. Right. And being okay with being uncomfortable. I think the only thing that's steady and the only thing that is, that doesn't change is the fact that things change every day. And that's okay. If you can live with that, you can move forward.
I love that. In fact, I always say, if things didn't change, we wouldn't be happy. Things need to change to be exciting and give us new opportunity. Now, Elaine, there's something that you said that I want to pull at and I want to really delve into. I love what you were talking about. Like, for example, you have a business in 2019, you don't now, it changes. It's a skill set. It's not about the business. And I'll tell you why I want to focus on that. And this was part of, as I discussed with you, why I wanted you to come on the show for our last show and have this discussion. There are many in the audience that either have experienced or someone they know experienced where their company has possibly been harmed to a degree during the last 2 years that it's going to be questionable whether they can continue with that company or as it was before. And what I have been telling people, because I work with finance and bankruptcy and all that, so obviously I've got a pretty large clientele that I have these discussions with. And I tell them that it's not that when the company dies, they die. No, that concept dies, but that doesn't take away from you and the skills and what else you can reproduce. And you can't control so much that happens in the world. And when people think that their actions are solely responsible for the success or failure of the business, I think that's crazy. I would say probably, I don't know, I'm making this up, but a half to maybe 3/4 of the things that will determine whether your company makes it or not is outside of your control. So I really want to end the year with people seeing that the business is their skill set, and whatever their skill set is that they're supplying to the market that is purchasing is their business today, and there is no death of that. Okay, that is still in existence. So can you elaborate on that a little bit too, Elaine?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think this pandemic has really highlighted that component, right? And again, I like to think of ourselves, and we work with small businesses, right? I like to think of us as, building resilient business owners, and failing forward, right? So, okay, today that didn't work. A pandemic hit, like there's, like you said, 75%, maybe about 75% of the causes are external. You have no control over those things. You have no control over, how something might work or may not work out. But, the idea of failing forward, the idea of failing, I think in general, is something that we ingrain in ourselves as a negative thing. I failed. I couldn't do this. This didn't work out, or I couldn't make this business work. But I think the question is really, did you fail or did you learn how to not do it that way next time?
Yes.
Right? Did you learn better? Did you learn how to, apply some of the things that you didn't know? In the process, if you learned, I don't know, a little bit of accounting, if you learned a little bit of marketing, if you learned a little bit about sales, you have grown as a person, right? Those things don't go away. Business die, you're not suddenly not a business, not a salesperson, not a marketing person, not a finance person. Those things still live within you, right? They're more like stepping stones, maybe chapters in our lives. If we can think about, going to elementary and learning basic math, so that when we get to college, it wouldn't be calculus if we didn't take basic math. And that's a process of leadership. You don't grow unless you learn from whatever you were doing before. You don't get to those steps until you learned different processes, right? And or maybe make mistakes. Making mistakes is also a learning process, and I think that's really the great thing about it. So I always like to think about mistakes and failing as a learning opportunity, right? What did I learn? What didn't work, and how can I do it different? Better next time.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me when a lot of my memories of entrepreneurship really comes back to my younger days because they were the experiences that were hard. They were hard on the heart. They were the ones that were most learned. And I can remember feeling so much like I'm failing and I want to succeed because I had this belief of what success needed to be on what society was telling me. And then felt like I was just driving myself crazy. So I sat down one day and I took out a piece of paper and I said, Lori, you write down your own definition of success or failure. You got to have your own definition. And I decided, well, what would it be to succeed? And I said, well, you know what? I think it's just if I did my best, if I tried, that's success. And then I said, well, what are you going to do for failure then? And I said, to be too afraid to try. If I'm so afraid and I beat myself up and I don't try, I failed. If I just try, I succeeded. And I think that's what kind of, brought me through the years. And then also realizing that in the marketplace, if I just look in the marketplace to identify what is it that people want to buy and I match it up with my skill set, I've got something I can do. And then the last part I'm going to add on this, and this is the part that I don't even know how to say it, Elaine, but I feel as though, I'm old, I've been on planet Earth for a while, right? And I've noticed that when things get taken from us, if we want to talk about that, we're forced to close down our business, a relationship ends, whatever, there seems to be this weird aspect of down the road, we say, I'm so glad that happened because now I'm engaged in this. So I think it's also a bit of looking beyond and kind of getting out of the being stuck here and saying, well, something really exciting is going to come around the corner. I'm just going to go through with this, take responsibility to the degree of taking the action I need to, but not to the degree of beating myself up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important to, grieve the process, right? If something comes to an end, validating those feelings and then reflecting, right? So it's okay. I mean, during the pandemic, we talked to so many business owners who, literally were like, I just want to hang on for another week so that my staff can get a paycheck. Yeah. And it wasn't about the business anymore. It was about the people that they were working with, right? The people that worked for them. It was about their community members, right? And so I think a lot about the companies that didn't make it, the companies that went under through, the process of the pandemic, right? I think the learning opportunity, right, and the grieving the process and saying, okay, that didn't work. How could I have done things differently? Like we couldn't have prevented the pandemic, but maybe other things, right, might have changed. I think that is the process, and then always then thinking about, okay, so what is the next step, or what am I going to do with the next? And again, continuing to remind ourselves, being kind to ourselves and remind ourselves that because something ended doesn't mean that what we took from it is gone too, right? That still lives within us. And that is something that you can utilize. Maybe, perhaps after a business, you're like, I don't think I want to own a business anymore. I think that was it, right? I think the heartbreak was too much. Maybe you're exhausted. So that's okay. You can go then maybe find a job and become an entrepreneur, right? And feed ideas and projects and, new develop new parts of a company, right? And that's okay too. There is nothing, there is nothing that says like, if you've been an entrepreneur, you can't go work for someone else and help them build their company, right? I think it's a process of, like you said, just really reminding yourself, like, what does success look like for me, right? And how do I define success? And for me, I think similar to you, I at some point in my life, I said success feels like, being happy with what I'm doing on a daily basis, right? Truly happy, not saying like, oh, now, yes, to everything we do, there's like 10, 15% that I'm like, oh, I hate doing this. But the 90% of the time, I love what I do, right? And I love working on different projects, helping different people, thinking about, obviously, the basics, like what is financial freedom, and then being able to say, okay, if I do this, is that going to get me there, right? And if not, then becoming entrepreneurial about it make more money, to do whatever, right? So yes, and knowing that your journey is going unique to you, I think is super important. And just always remembering, right, that you're taking all those things with you. That doesn't, like you said, it's just part of your, it's one chapter that, and you move on to the next chapter.
Yeah. And I think too, as much as we talk about, and I wanted to make sure I acknowledge, I love the fact that you said go through the grieving process. I didn't want to miss saying that. I think that's such an important aspect. I also think that if we were to talk about the responsibility that an entrepreneur has to themselves and their business, I would say become a person who seeks out information and education to make sure you at least have a foundational comprehension in the various key aspects of a company, such as, am I operating financially profitable? Am I following the right government regulations, filing forms, tax forms, etc.? Do I have a marketing strategy that is successful? Not just that I'm in love with it, but I'm actually testing it and making sure it's successful. And if I have any employees or things like that, I'm following HR laws, because I think those areas and, legal contracts, etc., those are the type of areas that each company, independent of its size these days, has to have an awareness, because I've been saying lately and for some time, there's no such thing as a small company anymore. And what I mean by that, Elaine, you go and you sell stuff at the flea market, you suddenly got to have a seller's permit. You got to make sure you have a business license. You make sure you have to have all this stuff. So when it comes to regulations, we're not like the mom and pops that I grew up. They just did cash only. They didn't do credit cards. And even our smallest companies have a certain level of complication. So I think there has to be a comprehension and respect and awareness that you're playing in these areas independent of the size of your company. Have you experienced where you see sometimes entrepreneurs are not acknowledging the need for these type of aspects and kind of not paying attention or researching them properly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's common, and it makes sense, right? That business owners get caught up working in their business, right? It's like, I got to go open up the shop. I got to be the one cooking. I mean, you name it, right? They're working in their business and they're not working on their business, right? And so we're talking about being a business owner. I think it's the difference between, the difference between being a worker, a manager, and then the owner, right? Very different, right? You got to set the tone for, what is your vision? What is your long-term plan? And all of the things that come in between, right? And so yeah, we see that all the time where business owners get settled in and there's always, opening, delivering whatever, right? They forget, oh, am I actually following, rules and regulations about breaks? Am I actually, giving people the right amount of, whatever, right? And so looking at ownership and entrepreneurship as a skill set of continuously developing yourself too as a leader, and saying, okay, it is my responsibility because I am taking on this business, right? My responsibility to make sure that rules are being followed, laws are being abided by, right? That we have some sort of sustainability plan, financially, marketing, operations, whatever, and just knowing that is your role, right? And that is the role is doing that first and foremost, because that is what sets the tone of your business moving forward. And we see it all the time where it's like they forget about that, because it is easier to go work, right? It is easier to do the things that you have to do on a daily basis, rather than thinking about the bigger picture, the bigger idea, and seeing all the things that kind of happen in between. I think business revisit, and we do this with my portfolio of companies that I work with, of having a vision board for their business, right, on a couple times during the year, right? And that vision board includes how do they want to see themselves as entrepreneurs and as business owners? What is their professional development as individuals, so that they can continue to lead a company, grow it, sustain it, whatever it may be. And what, right? I've also worked with businesses that are like, I just like send my kids to college, and that's, they have like no of being big businesses, right? Or maybe franchises or anything like that. And that's okay. You can accomplish, the process is the same of continuing to check in and saying, okay, am I doing what I need to do as a leader? Am I doing what I need to do as a business owner? Am I doing what I need to do as a person that's running a business in the city of XYZ, right? In the industry of XYZ that has employees. So continuously, continue to check in and saying like, am I checking on my to-do list as the leader and the business owner moving forward?
Okay, this is the first time I heard somebody combine vision board and business. I love it. I love vision boards. I always have. So thank you for saying that. Now, speaking of things you said, there's two sentences. I'm just going to start one. I'm going to read your sentence. I told you there was a couple things that you wrote to me when we talked about going on the show, and I really like them. So here is one, Elianne: how to build a business with purpose. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand why you want to have a business, right? Beyond the, I'm really good at making, pies, or I'm really good at like, create like, manufacturing purses or whatever, right? What is really the purpose of having a business beyond the things that you're doing, right? And internally, as a person, when things get really hard in business, and they do, right? There is times when you're like, what am I doing? How is this working? During the pandemic, we saw so much of that. You have to remember why you're doing what you're doing. What is your North Star that you can continue to follow? If you have a purpose in your business, then it's a lot easier to tackle the really hard things when you're going through them. And it's really also easy for you to sell that to your employees, to your staff, to your team. It's really easy to sell to your customers. It just becomes so much easier, right? What is your purpose, right? And again, it could be tied to a community that you care about. It could be tied to a cause that you care about, or it could be personal. Again, like I've worked with a lot of business owners that are, I primarily focus in, the really small communities, the mom and pops that have, corner stores. And their goal is, I just want to make sure that my kids go to college so they don't have to work 24/7 in a store like this. That's fantastic. That's your purpose. That's your story. That's the reason why you started that business, right? So putting that purpose behind everything that they do and how their customers say, my little corner store pays for my kid's education. Maybe you bring up a picture of your kid in high school, graduating from high school. Maybe they and you post a going to college. Thank you to our customers who can support our corner store, because now my kid has gone to college. That was my purpose. That was the reason why I did this business. And I think it humanizes businesses and the people that run them and the entrepreneurs that create them, right? And I think that human component is really what then creates a really strong bond between all the people and all the stakeholders, right? Your employees, your staff, your customers, your community, all the people that kind of surround your business. So this business with purpose, and again, it could be to so many different, we can talk about purpose all day long, but it's why are you doing what you're doing, and how are you sharing that with all the people that come into contact with your business, so that they know that they're dealing with another human being, and this is not just a transactional, thing that we're doing, right? It's got more than that. I think that creates loyalty, that creates lots of results in the long run.
Yeah, they always say people want to do business with people. And having grown up, everybody on the audience that follow me a lot knows I grew up in a little tiny country. We're not talking about rural, we're talking about Podun, okay? So everybody had their own little company. I grew up believing everybody, you had this tire shop, and then you had the farm, and I thought that's how everybody did business. And as I started my own company at a young age, it was really because I like to have control over my own existence. It wasn't until I went to work for other people that I realized somebody at the top could make a decision that affected me that I had no knowledge. So I think a lot of why I first started was more desperation rather than inspiration of wanting to control my own future. But as time went on, I realized that one of my purpose in business is I seem to have been born where I wanted people to know the truth about everything. And